Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the July 2022 Legacies and Lunch, a hybrid program of the Cowles Butler Center for Arkansas Studies. I'm Heather Register-Zabindin, the outreach coordinator for the Bobby L. Roberts Library of Arkansas History and Art. The Roberts Library houses the galleries and bookstore at Library Square, the Butler Center for Arkansas Studies, and the Encyclopedia of Arkansas. The Roberts Library Research Room, which is just upstairs on the second floor, is open Tuesday through Friday from 10 to 5 and every Saturday from noon until 4. We have a special deal going now in the galleries and bookstore at Library Square just for Legacies and Lunch days. Butler Center titles, Butler Center books titles, as well as gently read Arkansas books are 50% off on Legacies and Lunch days. So come and shop in the store. Today's talk is being live streamed to YouTube and will be available to view on Cowles' YouTube channel immediately following the program. Today's speaker will answer questions at the end of the session, and so for folks on Zoom, please type your questions in the chat box on Zoom, just like we've been doing for 2 years. So this month, we are joined by Sam Strasner, who will preview the upcoming documentary, What is a Wonder Boy? The big question of the day. Sam is the Director of University Relations at Arkansas Tech University. He holds a BA in journalism and an MA in multimedia journalism from Tech. A native and lifelong resident of Russellville, Strasner has served as the radio play-by-play voice of Tech athletics since 2002. Along with his wife and son, who are here with us today, he serves as caretaker for Jerry the Bulldog, the campus ambassador for Tech. So everybody, please give a warm virtual welcome to Sam. So I did just realize you do have to be here so they can see you on Zoom.
That is fine.
Okay.
Well, Heather, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone else with the Central Arkansas Library System who made this possible, along with Dr. Thomas A. DeBlack, who I'll have a chance to refer to a couple of times today, and his nominating this as a possibility for this. And we're just excited to be able to share this on this platform and with this audience. So the name of our project, and I say our because there's several of us, including my colleagues over in the Department of Athletics Communications at Arkansas Tech, Daniel Gallegos and Taylor Gomez. Certainly could not do this without them and wouldn't want to try. But as we've worked together on this, kind of the title for it that came to the fore was What is a Wonder Boy? And it's a bit of an odd question for me because growing up in Russellville, I knew exactly what a Wonder Boy was. I was taught by Wonder Boys. Wonder Boys taught me how to play golf, and generally were just pillars in our community and throughout the River Valley and throughout the state of Arkansas. And so I grew up with a very good understanding of what a Wonder Boy was and what it meant to be one. But as I got a little bit older and got outside of my bubble of Russellville, it became apparent to me that not everyone understood what a Wonder Boy was. And so as I had a chance to go on and work in the sports information office at Arkansas Tech as an undergraduate student, and then later in my current role and working in the alumni office, and then doing the radio play-by-play, pretty much everything that I've done, I've tried to collect as I've gone along a little bit of the history of Arkansas Tech, because I think it's absolutely essential to be able to tell stories in a context. I think that's just the fundamental element of storytelling. And so being able to have a knowledge of that history and be able to call upon it when appropriate, I hope has made me a better storyteller for Arkansas Tech as I've worked in that role now since about 2006. A little bit, the true origin of this project was around the centennial celebration of Arkansas Tech a couple of years before and a couple of years after. April 1st, 2009 was the 100-year anniversary of Arkansas Tech, along with our sister schools in Jonesboro and Magnolia and Monticello. And around that same time, Dr. Thomas A. DeBlack, then professor of history at Arkansas Tech, and now a professor emeritus of history at Arkansas Tech, a title that comes with a considerably lighter schedule, but also less remuneration. And so that's the pro and con of Dr. DeBlack's transition through those years. But he was working on a centennial history of Arkansas Tech, a century forward, being the proper title of that. And if you love Arkansas Tech, and if Dr. DeBlack's centennial history of Arkansas Tech is not a part of your personal library, it absolutely should be, because it is the definitive record of Arkansas Tech University throughout its first 100 years. And as he was working on this project, every once in a while he would call, mostly for photographs. That was the main service that I was able to provide. But especially with my interest and background in athletics, every once in a while we would just delve into some fun conversations about the history of Tech athletics. And one day we were discussing the fact that neither one of us had ever laid eyes on this famous newspaper article by Henry Loesch that was the origin point for the Wonder Boy nickname. And that realization that if I haven't seen it and Dr. DeBlack hasn't seen it, then I'm not sure how many folks that are still with us have. And so that sent me scrambling for the microfilm. And thank goodness they're at Ross Pendergraft Library and Technology Center in Arkansas Tech. We still have a robust collection of microfilm and one machine left that will operate it. And so we were able to go back and dig through that. And through that process, which you'll learn more about once we get to the film here in just a moment, we discovered that the details of the origin story of the Wonder Boy had become a little bit scrambled over the years. And so we were able to get that story documented. But the lesson that I took away from that and have carried ever since then is that if we are not all students of history, if we do not preserve history, if we do not document history as we go along, then it can become distorted and or lost over time. And that is what had happened to the story of the Wonder Boy. So that's back around 2009, around the time of the centennial of Arkansas Tech. And then fast forward about a decade to the spring of 2020, when none of us were in places like this. We were all at home, and I had a little bit more time on my hands than usual. And I knew coming up a few months from then, in November of 2020, would be the 100-year anniversary of the Wonder Boy's nickname. And so I just started doing some researching and some writing and pulling together some old material, trying to get it together in one form. And I was able to assemble a script, at least the beginnings of a script, which has been refined all the way up until now, to be able to go back and just get as much of the history of the Wonder Boys as we could, beginning with that origin story of how it came to be. And then equally importantly, then over the next 100 years, telling the story of why that name has meaning to so many people, the achievements and the personalities and everything else that's gone into bringing the Wonder Boys nickname and giving it so much meaning to the Arkansas Tech University community and beyond. And at the end of that, I hoped and I believe that we will have something that is a meaningful tribute to the coaches and to the student athletes who gave that Wonder Boys nickname meaning. But I had, over the years, I had written a lot of different things, but I wanted to create something that would be in a little bit more accessible format for the general public, and something that would have a little bit of staying power. My dream for this, and I may or may not be around to see it, but my dream for this project is hopefully 25 or 50 years from now, some coach at Arkansas Tech will stumble across this film and want to be able to show it to his student athletes as an explanation of what that Wonder Boy nickname means and why that they carry an awesome responsibility in carrying that forward. But I have zero video skills. And so that's where luckily some of my co-conspirators, Taylor Gomez and Daniel Gallegos in the Arkansas Tech Athletics Communications Office, along with Stormy Leonard, who was a graduate assistant at that time, they helped me a great deal. It would have been just fine for me to talk into a recorder and narrate the script that I'd come up with and put some photographs with it. That would have been just fine. But the thing that took this project, I believe, to a much greater level was the assistance that they were able to provide, and then the assistance that technology such as Zoom was able to provide in being able to interview a great many Wonder Boys, from going back to I guess probably the earliest would be Eddie Metter, who's now if you have any sway with the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, Eddie Metter should be in it. And he's the greatest professional athlete to ever come from Arkansas Tech. So he would have been chronologically the first Wonder Boy that we had access to interview. And we interviewed him all the way up through close to present day. And I believe that adding that element, and Taylor and Daniel and Stormy and their ability to be able to do that is really what took this to a different level. And just want to thank all three of them for their incredible lending of their talents, as well as all of the Wonder Boys who gave of their time to sit down for those interviews. So we had the script and the narration, and we had the interviews, and then the last and probably most difficult in some ways piece of the puzzle was assembling the photographs that would help tell the story. Through a variety of sad stories, our photo archives at Arkansas Tech University are not what I would want them to be. One of the realities of the past is that when you sent all your black and white prints off to the yearbook company to have them placed into the yearbooks at whatever printing company you were using, there was an extra charge to have those big boxes of photographs mailed back to you. And it seems more often than not, that charge was not paid. And so I fear that a great many of our historical black and white prints documenting the history of Arkansas Tech probably ended up in incinerators at printing companies. But luckily they do live on in the pages of the Agricola yearbook. That's where we were able to find many of the older images. One of my mentors in life, Larry Smith, who was the sports information director at Arkansas Tech from 1987 through 2005, he maintained remarkable records in all accounts for those years, including photography. And so that was a great help. And then Liz Chrisman, who was the director of photography services at Arkansas Tech for most of a decade or a little bit more even, she, from 2010 till present day, had an incredible collection from those years. And so we were able to cobble all that together. And by the time it was done, we had scanned in or discovered or archived a little over 600 photos of the Wonder Boys over the span of 100 years, and even going back the 9 or 10 years before that when they were the Aggies. So that's a little bit of a prologue. And at this point, I'd like to invite Heather to come up, because if I try to change this, we're going to have a disaster.
Well, and I thought about that after I brought you up here. I told Sam, I said, thank you so much for being our guinea pig. Okay.
So what you'll see here, this will be the first 20 minutes of the documentary film. There's much more to follow. We'll talk more about that afterward, but this will be the first 20 minutes. This basically goes back to the origin of even the university, and then goes up through the creation of the Wonder Boy nickname, and kind of walks through what the original group of Wonder Boys, what they contributed.
Okay. There, and now let's share. Okay, hopefully everybody on Zoom doesn't see a black screen, but a screen with an actual words on it. And now maybe. But you shouldn't hear any volume on Zoom or any noise yet.
The nickname Wonder Boys is 100 years old. The young men who earned, defined, and refined the name came from every corner of Arkansas, from around the United States, and even from around the world. They earned the right to be called Wonder Boys in times of struggle and in times of prosperity. They played for coaches whose names are literally etched on the campus: Brown, Tucker, Heinzman, Dobson, and others whose names are indelibly listed in the record books: Salmon, Dempsey, Barnes, Harpinaugh, Faulkner, Mullins, and still more who continue to build upon the legacy today. For 100 years, Wonder Boys have come to Arkansas Tech to earn an education. They have gone forth and made contributions great and small for the betterment of Arkansas, the nation, and the world. And they have won. From the day a group of farmers from the 2nd District Agricultural School went to Arkadelphia and earned the nickname, until today, the Wonder Boys have won games, championships, and the right to be remembered. Through research of the archives and interviews with those who wore the green and gold, we will remember the achievements of the Wonder Boys and seek to answer a fundamental question: what is a Wonder Boy? 64 conference titles, 44 national postseason berths, 80 All-Americans. These are some of the athletic achievements associated with the nickname Wonder Boys at Arkansas Tech University from 1920 through 2020. Over the past century, it has come to be recognized as one of the most distinctive nicknames in intercollegiate athletics. But what is a Wonder Boy?
I've always believed it was one that was unique, and it was an effort to distinguish the second district school from being the Aggies like everybody else, because they were all agricultural schools. And I think that's where it took off, popular with the students, and gave Tech a uniqueness, not only in this conference, but probably in the country, that being the only Wonder Boys.
A Wonder Boy is a person that never gives up. Will fight till the very, very end. Will always have the person and their families back. It is a tough individual, blue collar. That to me is a Wonder Boy. That's what we were when we played. That's what we were made to be as well. And that's what I strive for our team to be as of right now.
There's a reason the Wonder Boys are called the Wonder Boys. And there's a story behind it, and it's a great story.
You know, we got a bulldog now. I think that's wonderful. That's great. You know, you can take a picture of him. You can't very well take a picture of a Wonder Boy, but the history of the Wonder Boys and the story about where it came from, I think is unique.
It means a lot to me because we are the only Wonder Boys. And I hope that never changes, and I'm proud of that.
A Wonder Boy is someone who has a lot of pride. When they make a commitment, that commitment is going to stand, and they're going to fight for it to the end.
I just have pride when I walk back in here. I played on that floor. I was a Wonder Boy. Whether you liked it or not, you had to deal with us.
I wear it on my skin.
Most of the pro players with the Rams at that time say, "Where is Arkansas Tech? What is this Wonder Boy thing?" You know, so I don't know that I can say a lot more than that. But I just said I'm going to show them what a Wonder Boy really is.
To me, it is the excellence in being a student athlete and the things that you're doing every day. You think about John Tucker first and foremost, and the excellence that he had in all aspects of his life. And I think of our former great student athletes on my team.
You know, when you hear the word Wonder Boy, you think about above and beyond. You think about hero type. You know, I have to keep up with the name. I have to do more. We have to show more than what just a football team at Arkansas Tech University. We have to do more. Our literal nickname are the Wonder Boys. So we have to perform at a level where it's more than just another team on a field. What you're doing is greater than yourself.
You see us walk out on the field and you watch West Georgia and Delta State and those boys come out there, those guys right down there in green and gold are the Wonder Boys because they were just absolutely out-athleted, outsized, outmanned, and we beat them all. You know, so to me, that is a Wonder Boy, somebody just an overachiever that comes out of nowhere and, you know, kind of the Cinderella story guy.
And I'm proud to be one. You know, we had golf balls with a little Wonder Boy logo on them. It was so cool. I remember getting those titles and seeing that Wonder Boy on there. It's like, man, this is all right. And obviously, it gets a little heat from people, but it's funny how some of those people end up going to Arkansas Tech and being Wonder Boys. So
it was more of a spirit. It's more of something internal. You don't give up. You fight to the very end. You throw the kitchen sink if you have to throw the kitchen sink. You do what you have to. It's that desire to excel, and it's that desire to lead and the desire to win.
You're a part of a family, and those ties and those relationships, they run deep. So I would say that being a Wonder Boy is being a part of a family.
To me, being a Wonder Boy, is everything. I mean, it really is, because it gave and I'd say an average high school athlete the opportunity to play college football without sports or that scholarship. I'm not sure I would have even stepped foot on campus, which means, if you just kind of start domino affecting that, it helped me go into out into the workforce, being able to secure some good jobs, have a family, and then being able to come back. Had the opportunity to come back and work here. So it means everything to me.
I came here out of the military after playing 3 years of military football and joined the team and found out quickly that, you know, I had joined a unique group of individuals with diverse backgrounds, but all of them with a desire to be something special, to add to the traditions at Arkansas Tech.
Wonder Boy is a young man who has dreams that exceed public expectation and who has a passion and a conviction that leaves him no choice to chase down that dream and see it come true.
We don't take anything lightly. We take everything serious. We attack everything. And if you're not going to carry the Wonder Boy name with pride, if you're not going to attack the world, attack, you know, being a father, a husband, if you're not going to attack being an athlete, if you're not going to attack being a student, then don't wear the name Wonder Boy.
And you can wear that, wear a cap that says Arkansas Tech Wonder Boys, and people will go, well, what's a Wonder Boy? Well, you're looking at one. I'm a Wonder Boy.
The 2nd District Agricultural School, as Arkansas Tech University was originally known, conducted its first day of class on October 26, 1910. The school fielded its first football team in 1911 and its first baseball team the following spring. Its first basketball team was assembled in 1914. Throughout the 1910s, the teams were known as the Aggies in recognition of the institution's primary academic mission. The arrival of 3 individuals over a period of 3 consecutive years forever transformed the school's athletic program. Hugh Kreitz was elected the 5th president of the 2nd District Agricultural School in 1918. His acumen in farming and public relations made him an immediate hit.
Up in Russellville, the folks are absolutely certain that in Hugh Kreitz, president of the 2nd District Agricultural School, they have positively the greatest man on earth. Someday they're going to build a fence around their town and turn it over in its entirety to him.
A graduate of Mississippi State University, Kreitz recognized the value of a successful athletic program in recruiting students and building relationships with the surrounding community. He set about creating that asset at the 2nd District Agricultural School. He could not have cast a more ideal building block in that endeavor than an 18-year-old student who enrolled at the 2nd District School in 1919. Born in Russellville on April 15, 1901, John Tucker became an active member of the Russellville Aggies football roster with the 1919 season already in progress. By the time the season finale against Jonesboro arrived on November 21st, he was starting at quarterback. The build-up to the game against Jonesboro brought the school and the community together in an unprecedented fashion.
If the Russellville Aggies lose to the Jonesboro Aggies here Friday afternoon, it will not result from lack of support, for the entire town of Russellville is backing the team to win. This fact was manifested last night at a rousing get-together meeting in the City Hall under the auspices of the Russellville Chamber of Commerce. PEP was the slogan, and businessmen and professional men made enthusiastic talks, pledging their attendance and support to the home team.
Tucker scored 2 touchdowns and kicked both extra points in a 14-0 victory. The post-game celebration was described in the Arkansas Gazette as the most enthusiastic occasion in the history of Russellville. A parade through the streets of downtown culminated in a bonfire, speeches by team and faculty members, and a reception at the Elks Hall. It was told for multiple generations that the 1919 win over Jonesboro was the inspiration that prompted Arkansas Gazette sports writer Henry Loesch to give the 2nd District Agricultural School team a new nickname. And while there is no doubt that the 14-0 victory was a key turning point in the history of the school's athletic program, Henry Loesch did not cover the game. A reporter named William A. Wilson had the byline in the Arkansas Gazette, and the nickname assigned to the 2nd District Agricultural School team in his article was Aggies. It would be almost exactly 1 year later, and following the addition of one more integral piece of the puzzle, that the Aggies earned their new nickname. Born in the Smoky Mountains of Appalachia, Edgar O. Brown was a World War I era colonel in the U.S. Army. Following the war, he led Central College of Fayette, Missouri, to an undefeated season in 1919. Taking note of this achievement, President Hugh Kreitz hired Brown and charged him with the task of taking the 2nd District Agricultural School program to the next level.
Brown is the football wizard who has made a contender for the state college championship out of youngsters who are little more than high school material. He has convinced Russellville, at least, that as a football mentor, he is equal to the task of holding his own with the well-known football tutors of the state. By degrees, his team is convincing the rest of the state.
Brown is the one, I think, that really gets the tech program off the ground and knew how to utilize John Tucker and had some other really good players to go along with Tucker.
Known among his players as E.O. the Silent, Brown led the 1920 2nd District Agri School team to early season blowout wins over the schools now known as Southern Arkansas and Central Arkansas. Brown's Russellville Aggies also played Hendrix and the University of Arkansas freshman team to scoreless ties, giving them a record of 2-0-2 at the close of October. On November 5th, 1920, the 2nd District Agricultural School hosted Little Rock College. Henry Loesch of the Arkansas Gazette made the trip west with the Little Rock College team. The Russellville Aggies won the game 14-7, prompting Loesch to describe the 2nd District Agri School as a newcomer apparently destined to become a feared rival in intercollegiate athletics in Arkansas. Loesch was especially impressed with 2nd District School quarterback John Tucker.
Now for the rest of the story that Russellville asked for the introduction of a super player, and for the details of his performance. Russellville knows who we mean. By sections, the rest of Arkansas is being acquainted with him. Fans, friends, and the Ouachita Tigers. If you ever meet the Russellville Farmers, look out for Captain John Tucker. The Husky captain, he weighs a neat 180, did not have a corner on the Russellville punch, and he did not play the game alone. There are other men in the Aggie backfield who smash with terrible force and who are equal to the role of individual star. But this Tucker is so good that he makes the rest of them look bad. He's so good that it's hard to see anyone else on the entire field.
With those words from Loesch, the statewide legend of John Tucker was born, and the tone was set for the establishment of a new identity for his team. The 2nd District Agricultural School remained undefeated with one game remaining on its 1920 schedule, a contest in Arkadelphia against Henderson Brown College on the afternoon of Tuesday, November 16th. The Arkansas Gazette published 3 articles previewing the game. The first, on November 14th, 1920, described the Russellville Aggies as the wonder team of the 1920 football drama in Arkansas. Then, on November 15th, 1920, the 2nd District Agricultural School team was referred to as the Wonder Team of the Year. And finally, on November 16th, 1920, in the game day preview, the team was referred to as the Wonder Boys of Arkansas football in lowercase. The season-ending clash at Henderson Brown College was a scoreless tie at halftime. The 2nd District School went deep into the playbook during the third quarter for a fake punt executed by Tucker that led to the first score of the day. Glenn Kerr plowed over the goal line from 4 yards out to give the Russellville Aggies a 6-0 lead. Tucker scored on a 20-yard touchdown run early in the fourth quarter and then set the 2nd District School's final margin of victory by making the extra point. The Aggies led 13-0 and went on to a shutout victory. Loesch was in Arkadelphia for the game. The next day, on November 17th, 1920, the headline of his article in the Arkansas Gazette used Wonder Boys as a proper noun in reference to the 2nd District Agricultural School football team for the first time ever. The headline read, Russellville winner in tight game with Reddies. Wonder Boys victory delayed until second half by wonderful defensive work of Henderson Brown players. Score 13-0.
I think, again, it was Henry Lesh at the Gazette said 3 or 4 years ago, none of us knew there was an agricultural school in Russellville. And now everyone knows about it. And that was purely because of the exploits of the Wonder Boys.
Tucker played for the Wonder Boys through the 1924 season and accumulated an insurmountable school record total of 443 career points scored. No other Tech player has ever scored more than 259 career points.
One story that sticks out to me about John Tucker occurred in a game against Henderson Brown when Henderson had been leading the whole game, scored 7-0. Tech scored late in the game to make it 7-6. Tucker was also the place kicker. And apparently the snap was fumbled. Tucker picked up the loose ball, tried to skirt around the right end, but he was cut off by some Henderson defenders. Reverse field, started back to the left, and then suddenly stopped and drop kicked the ball through the uprights for the tying point. There was a future coach at the University of Oklahoma who witnessed that and called it by far the most remarkable thing he'd ever seen on a football field.
From 1920 through 1924, Tucker led the Wonder Boys to a cumulative record of 31-3-5. Their only 3 losses during that span were to the University of Tulsa in 1922, Army in 1923, and Texas A&M in 1924. He came to be known as the original Wonder Boy and would remain closely associated with Arkansas Tech for the remainder of his life.
Going to give us next. Okay. There we go. Let's close that out. And actually, we don't need to see my kid anymore. No. Okay. Well, we'll just leave my kid up for a little while.
That's fine. Handsome.
Well, thank you. That's an
Wonder
old
Boy
picture. Oh, my mother would be so happy. My mom went to Tech, so yeah, she would be so happy. So, okay.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all very much for watching that. I hope that you enjoyed it, and maybe other than Dr. DeBlack, he knew all that, but I hope the rest of you maybe learned 1 or 2 things as we went through it. As you can surmise from the fact that it took 20 minutes to go through the first 5 years of the Wonder Boys nickname, this film in its final form is going to be much longer than the audience will be able to bear. It's great, but even with that said, fortunately, Taylor Gomez from Athletics Communications and some other folks have helped, and my bride, Heather, and other folks have tried to help kind of rein me in as we've gone through this project. And so I think we've got it in its final form down to a total of about 2 hours is going to be the total running time of the full thing once we get done. And again, grateful to Taylor for helping keep it to that limit. Our plan as we go forward is to roll this out on YouTube in some similarly digestible chunks of 20 to 30 minutes each. Taylor thinks we can get it done in 4 segments, and I completely, as you can tell from the quality of job she's done and taking a handful of material and putting it together, have total faith in her. But so that'll be happening a little bit later this fall. One of the really neat things that will be immediately after that in the script where we cut off there, Dr. DeBlack a number of years ago, among the many gifts that he's brought to me over the years from a history of Arkansas Tech perspective, back in the mid 70s, a gentleman by the name of Tom Kammerling, who has been associated with Arkansas Tech for half a century as our radio announcer, and then over the last 20 years or so, since I've been doing the radio, as our PA announcer at football and basketball. And you heard Tom's voice there. He was the one doing the voiceover for the newspaper clippings, and really, I think, brought a lot of life to those. Tom, back in the mid-'70s, had an opportunity to sit down in our TV studio at Arkansas Tech and interview Ivan Grove from Hendrix College and Duke Wells from Henderson State. So if any of my friends at Hendrix or Henderson State are listening and would like to have some video clips of those gentlemen talking, we've got them. And most importantly to me, he interviewed John Tucker that day. And so we actually have footage of John Tucker speaking. We did have to edit out the part where he, like everyone else, incorrectly told the 1919 story. So we had to leave that on the cutting room floor. But as I said, that was mistold for generations. And so, but aside from that, just some really neat things that to hear from Coach Tucker and to actually see the original Wonder Boy animated and talking and breathing for those of us who came along too late to experience that in person. I think that'll be a moment that a lot of people will enjoy. As you might imagine, throughout the remainder of the film, we kind of follow the thread of John Tucker throughout the rest of his life. As late as the mid to late 1960s, he was still winning Arkansas Intercollegiate Conference titles as the golf coach at Arkansas Tech. And as we said in the film there, remained associated with Tech until the day he died in the early 1980s, as when Coach Tucker left us. But he, Coach Sam Heinzman, who we stole away from those purple and gray folks in Conway in 1947, he is a significant thread in the story. A lot of neat things about Coach Heinzman. Probably the last piece in the puzzle, and I hope for Taylor's sake and everybody else who's helping me, it'll be the last piece in the puzzle. On Monday, Lynn Harden, who is Coach Heinzman's daughter, she has promised me that she has got a photo of Coach Heinzman cutting down the net after Marty Barnes won his first AIC title as men's basketball coach in the late 80s. And Coach Barnes in his interview just beautifully tells that story of calling Coach Heinzman down out of the bleachers. And I was sharing that with Lynn at the AIC reunion golf tournament here less than 2 weeks ago. And she said, I've got a picture of that. And so that'll be one of the last things that we'll plug into this as we go along. But really just trying throughout the rest of the film to represent the coaches and the student athletes who gave the Wonder Boys nickname meeting, and carrying that right up to the present day. I mentioned Coach Heinzman, whenever he was hired at Arkansas Tech in 1947. That was really the beginning of a dream. Of course, the ultimate prize in college athletics is a national championship. And Coach Heinzman got very close, took the Wonder Boys to the national semifinals of the NAIA basketball tournament twice in the 1950s. Coach Don Dempsey got us very close in football, national runners-up in 1971. And then Coach Marty Barnes got us very close in 1995, again, going to the national semifinals of the basketball tournament. And just as we were wrapping up this project, it happened. The Wonder Boys won their first national championship. And so it gave us a nice little kind of bow to tie around this project. And we appreciate Luke Calcaterra, former Arkansas Tech head men's golf coach, and the Wonder Boys who were part of that championship for giving us that nice bow that we were able to go back and adjust the ending of our film to include that. So I mentioned that we'll be rolling this out this fall. You can look for it on YouTube. Arkansas Tech University Athletics will be a great place to look for it. We're going to roll it out to coincide with the induction of the inaugural class of the Arkansas Tech University Athletics Hall of Fame. Just a few years late to the party, we're getting that done. We will have an Athletics Hall of Fame at Arkansas Tech. And the first class of those individuals will be inducted on September 16th. And so we'll roll this film out as kind of a prelude to that. And then just one last item of business before we get to any questions you might have. As you can tell, this particular project has a very specific gender slant to it. Our men's teams at Arkansas Tech are known as the Wonder Boys, and our women's teams are known as the Golden Sons. And for any of you who happen to have the privilege of knowing my mother, she is a very staunch advocate for women's athletics and has drilled that into anyone that she's encountered throughout her life, including myself, and I'm grateful for it. There is some similar historical records out there about the Golden Sons. I had a chance a few years ago to work with Ryan Taylor, another really gifted filmmaker on our campus at Arkansas Tech, and we were able to produce a film about the back-to-back national championship teams in women's basketball that we had in 1992 and 1993. If you go to YouTube and search for Arkansas Tech Golden Sons and then national champions, then you'll find that film, which is also in 4 segments, which is proof that my long-windedness is not a new development. Also hope that once we get done with this project and once Taylor and Daniel from Athletics Communications once they recover from what I've put them through on this one. We're also looking to round up some of the female athletes who were at Arkansas Tech around the time of the Title IX came into being. We'd like to be able to capture some video footage of them while we can. That's been one of the many lessons from this. Goodness gracious, I wish I had got people like Don Dempsey in front of a camera, Don Severe in front of a camera before we lost them. But while we can, get some of those pioneers in women's athletics at Arkansas Tech in front of a camera and be able to share their story for posterity's sake. And so that'll be the next one of these that we hope to tackle. So with all of that, if anybody has any questions or thoughts or comments, I'd be very happy to entertain them.
Sam, you got anything in the budget for touch-ups and airbrushing? Some of the people on there that are trying to lie.
It's funny how that works out. I attribute it to poor lighting. I think that's the only possible. But and you also have to remember it's been a few years since we got that. I can't remember how long ago we actually got that recorded. It's been a bit of a long-term project, and so yeah, we're all a little older than we were that day.
There's a question on Zoom. It says a bit of a tangential question, but is the Agricola yearbook being published again? Its publication was curtailed in the late 2000s.
Yes, the last issue of the Agricola was 2007. It was the last yearbook at Arkansas Tech, and has not come back since then. I've kind of taken it on as a bit of a personal mission through a few different avenues to try to be able to capture as many of those moments as I can. If the Zoom caller, if they're ever, or at least for the foreseeable future, it'll be a while till anybody will get around to moving it. If you go by Tucker Coliseum right now, there's a really neat timeline project that we put together as part of a capital campaign to benefit Arkansas Tech earlier this year, along with the partner Luke Bradshaw, Northwest Arkansas and Bravest Marketing Agency. They helped us put together this timeline, and it's on display there in Tucker Coliseum. So if you're a student of Arkansas Tech history and would like to go by and view that, it'll be there probably till somebody gets a truck big enough to move it.
Sam, what else did you learn in this project that you didn't know?
You know, I think it was really one of the things that I'll remember was the chance to visit with Eddie Metter. His son really went out of his way to make that happen while they were on a family trip down into Florida, and got the technology set up such that we were able to visit with Eddie Metter. That's one of those names that you know I've read all my life, and to sit and visit, it's kind of the same experience as seeing Coach Tucker you know, speak. It's that opportunity to be able to visit with him was really special. You know, I also, you know, we've got some former coaches, and I hope, you know, one of my hopes was, as I was going through the list of who do I want to try to get in front of a camera, and this was all done kind of in the margins of life. And so goodness, there's a lot more that we didn't get in front of a camera that I would have liked to have, but just with the time we had available, getting a chance to bring Marty Barnes back, for instance, who had such success as the men's basketball coach from the late 80s through the mid 90s. Some of his basketball teams from the late 80s are some of my first memories of Arkansas Tech athletics. And so the chance just on a personal level to go back and relive some of that with him and get his perspective on it. He tells a great story that did not fit in the documentary at all, but I'm going to figure out a way to do something with it. They were at a tournament over in Nashville a number of years ago, and there's so many colleges in Nashville. I'm not sure that I'm going to pull the right one. I believe it was Lipscomb is where they were at, and hopefully Lipscomb is the Bisons. That'll make this story make a lot more sense. But Lipscomb hosted this tournament every year, and Coach Barnes recalled that the Wonder Boys were about to beat them in the championship game. Well, Lipscomb, it was one of these invitational things early in the season where they had just always brought in people they knew they could beat, and then went on. And with about 30, 45 seconds left in the game, the Lipscomb coach, he was beaten, and he called Marty over to midcourt, and he said, "Coach, I've got a problem. We have never lost in this tournament, so we've never bothered ordering a trophy. And so I don't have anything to give you when this is over." And Coach Barnes said, "Well, I noticed when we came in, there's a real nice pewter bison out in your trophy case. Could I just have that?" And the coach from Lipscomb said, "Yeah, we can let you have that, and just give it back to us afterward." And so, long story short, that bison now sits in Marty Barnes' living room in Northwest Arkansas. And so, anyway, but him retelling that story, I'll figure out a way to use that eventually, but it was about a 6 or 7 minute story, and so I just couldn't find a place to make it fit.
That's some great basketball teams in the late 40s.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Oh, for sure, yeah. Frank Nelson, Chief. Chief was a colorful character I got to know later in his life. Coach Dobson, of course, Dewar Dobson, who later became the coach and led the Wonder Boys basketball program to their only national tournament appearance between 1963 and 1995. Dobson's last year, he would have been 48, 49. He would have finished in 51. And so, yeah. Yeah, and Dr. DeBlack, there's a story later in the film that Dr. DeBlack tells that's pulled right from the pages of his book, chronicling the history of Arkansas Tech, whereby telling the story of how Coach Heinzman went down to Strong, Arkansas, and down to Southwest Arkansas and recruited Coach Dobson, or Dewar Dobson, to come to Arkansas Tech and play, and how he at first Dop, Swish, as his friends called him, he wasn't really sure he wanted to go, and then he got home, and his mother had put all of his belongings in a box out on the front porch, and told him he was going to, when Coach Heinzman came back, he was going to Russellville to get an education. And so that short of the influence of Deward's mother, we wouldn't have ever had him at Arkansas Tech. Yeah.
Did John know?
Yes, matter of fact, we have a residence hall on campus named in his memory, right there at the corner. Another Wonder Boy, yeah, and that's a good example of just that's one of the other things that I've known throughout my life. What's been driven home through this is just the impact that Wonder Boys have made beyond the realm of athletics, and it's definitely been a good thing to be reminded of as I've visited with a lot of these folks. And Scott, to your question, the other thing I'd like to say about that is you got to see a brief snippet from both of them in there. If there are two living people who will carry the spirit of the Wonder Boys forward the longest, I hope, and the strongest, it'd likely be Ben Montgomery and Lance Strother. You heard both of them speak during those first 20 minutes, and we have much more from them later in the film, especially the 1999 Wonder Boys football team that won the Gulf South Conference Championship. They both played on that team. But there's just something about Arkansas Tech and being a Wonder Boy that really connected with those two individuals on a very deep level at the age of 20, 21, 22. And as you can tell from the conviction with which they speak and the conviction with which they've gotten their tattoos, it means a lot to them. And so the chance, when I started this, I knew I had to, anything else, I knew I had to get Ben and Lance to really make this work. And I'm very grateful that they invested the time they did with me.
Same time about the Army and Tulsa, and those people still figure college.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, Arkansas Tech did not become, well, there's it's kind of, as you know, there's kind of an interesting sideways on that story. So you might have noticed that John Tucker played at Arkansas Tech, then the second district school, for quite a while. He arrived in 1919 and started playing then and played all the way through the 24 season. During that same time, President Kreitz went about the process. This didn't make the film, by the way, but because it's a little fuzzy. But President Kreitz, during that same time frame, went through the process of converting Arkansas Tech from an agricultural high school into a college. President Kreitz's vision, and he just almost got it done. This is a story for another time because I'm down to about 7 minutes. But not far from here, just at the state capitol in 1923, President Kreitz very, very nearly executed a vision to make Arkansas Tech the Mississippi State or Texas A&M of Arkansas. That was what he was trying to do. And he came within literally a heart attack of getting it done. But that's another story for another time. But it was that close. And so through that process, he did, for a short time, they granted some bachelor's degrees in 1925. And Tucker and several of his teammates were included in that class. There are those at some of our fellow institutions around the state who hurled these nasty accusations that perhaps among the reasons why President Kreitz wanted to make that move to a four-year college was so that Tucker could keep playing football. And not only did he play football for parts of 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 6 seasons at Arkansas Tech, then he goes and plays at the University of Alabama and was on their team that won the Rose Bowl in 1931. And so John Tucker probably played more college football than anyone in history, or at least right amongst them. And so, but there's more details about that in the film, and it's definitely a colorful part of Coach Tucker's story.
They started in
Yeah, absolutely, the 4 Johns back. Absolutely. If you're ever in Tuscaloosa and go to the University of Alabama Football Hall of Fame and museum there, then you'll see evidence of John Tucker there. And not only that, but CB Foots Clemens, another Arkansas and another Arkansas Tech alumnus who went on to play at Alabama. And again, so 25, some bachelor's degrees, just to wrap a bow around that story. I'll get about 4 stories going at once. So they granted some bachelor's degrees in 25. President Kreitz around that same time was exiting due to health reasons, although he did later resurface as the president at what is now UA Monticello, as well as at his alma mater, Mississippi State. But he stepped away from Arkansas Tech, would go back to being a junior college for a quarter of a century, and then been a 4-year school since about 1950.
Any questions?
Thank you all very, very much for being here.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Next month, if I can find my notes, I know that we're going to be here on August 3rd. I do know that much. Okay, there we go. You've got a thank you here on Zoom. Really enjoyed the presentation. This is Richard Spillman, and he went to Tech from 2000 to 2004. And so it's good to hear the history of the Wonder Boys. So next month we will be back in room 124. Ron Fuller is going to come and talk about Mount Holly Cemetery for us, and that'll be really interesting. So noon back here, 124, as well as on Zoom. And please take advantage of the sale on the books, 50% off Butler Center books titles, as well as the gently read Arkansas section titles. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for being patient with us. And we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Very much. I love it. Very much. See you guys next week.
Thank you.